Now, as this whole series is about using reinforcement learning as a recommendation systems, let's try to understand what reinforcement learning is all about. Now, you must already be familiar with supervised learning, wherein you give examples and a label. So the learning happens in a supervised learning settings by minimizing the error term. That is the difference between what is being predicted and what is the actual ground truth, and reducing this error term. That's where the learning happens. The parameters get changed. And then that's the context of this learning. Plus, you also learn what is the function which connects your input to output. But in reinforcement learning, it's all about learning happens through interactions between the agent and the environment. Let's view it from a context of recommendation systems. Now, you have one of the primary component in reinforcement learning is something called an agent. Now, in our recommendation system context, the recommendation engine can be treated as like your agent. Now, these recommendation systems or the agent does certain actions. So in the context of recommendation systems, the actions could be it recommends different products and services to the users, and these users is the whole environment, and that's where the recommendation systems interact with, or the agent interacts with an environment. Now here the users are this. So the action which happens is some recommendation which happens to the user. Now based on the recommendations which has been given or the actions which has been taken, the environment gives some feedbacks in the form of rewards. Now in the recommendation context, your feedback could be whether based on the products which has been recommended, you can either buy the product, ignore the product, just browse through the products. So you can take different actions on this. So these are the rewards or the updates or the feedbacks which you give, which you get, or which the agent receives. And based on the feedbacks, the agent tries to learn or optimize and learn in terms of what is pleasing for, or what is the affinity to of a user, and then tries to build a policy or build a kind of a context in terms of what needs to be recommended to whom. So this is the overall context in which a reinforcement learning happens. So you have agents which interacts with the environment through some actions which it takes, and the environment gives some feedbacks, or which is called the rewards. So these agents does these things from different states. What do you mean by states is the different contexts in which you are. Say for example, in a recommendation system, the different contexts could be the day in which, or the time in which the user is interacting, or the segment in which the user falls into. And all these things could be the context or the state in which in the whole reinforcement learning context. Now we will having got a brief understanding of reinforcement learning, let's reinforce that or understanding with more examples in the subsequent slides. In the previous slide, we just introduced the concept of reinforcement learning, and we just briefly saw some of those elements of reinforcement learning. Let's try to understand it a little more from the context of a robot who is trying to pick trash. Now this robot, let's look at the different elements of reinforcement learning. The first one is about state. Now from these robots context, a state is in terms of the charge the robot has. Now the robot could have a state of high charge or a low charge. So that's the first element, which is a state. Now from each state, the agent, which is your robot in this case, takes certain actions. Now the different actions could be, you can start searching for trash, or you can just wait. Okay, so from a high charge, from a state of high charge, you can do all these things. You can start searching for trash, or you can wait there. But if you are in a low charge, you can have three different actions. That is, you can continue searching, you can wait, and you can also do a recharging. Now each of these actions which is taken from different states ends you up, or takes you to another different state, or a new state. So you have state 1, which is either your high charge or low charge. You take some actions like search or wait, and based on the actions which you take, you get into another state. So now, say for example, let's take the example when the robot is in a state of high charge. Now suppose it continues to search in a high charge. Now there are two states in which it will end up. It could, if the search is not too much, or if it's just a limited search, it could still continue to be in a high charge itself. But if it's searching for a long time, probably this after all these search from high charge, it could end up into a state of low charge. Similarly, if it's in a high charge and you keep on waiting, you are not going to exhaust your charge, and you will still continue to be in high charge. So, and if you look at the other example of whether if the robot was in a low charge, based on the different types of actions, you can end up in different types of other states as seen in the picture. So these are some of the elements of reinforcement learning from a robot's example. So you have your agent, which is your trash picking robot. You have your environment, that is the whole environment in which you pick up trash, and you take certain actions. Based on the actions, you get you end up in a different set of states. Now you would be wondering about what could be the rewards here. Now the reward system is in terms of say if you pick up a trash, maybe you give you give a plus point. If you don't pick up, you continue searching, you don't give any points. But if the robot discharges or the charge completely drains off, then you give him big minus point to it, that is -5. Now what these rewards does is, by doing these rewards or giving these rewards, it's trying to reinforce a kind of a positive behavior in the robot, and that is what is being done. So during its interactions with the environment, say the robot was in low charge, and it continued to be on continued to search for trash, and then suddenly in the middle of nowhere it just loses every charge. Then you get a high negative feedback, or high negative penalty for example. Let's not call it reward, it's like a penalty, high negative penalty for that. So that's a reward, or that's a feedback which the robot has got. So and the robot tries to learn from the feedback it has got, so that the next time, based on its previous experiences, you craft a policy saying that, okay, if the charge comes to a certain level of threshold, do not search, go for recharging. So that's what is being learned. What you mean by learning in a reinforcement learning context is about a policy which is being learned, which tells the agent of what needs to be done, or what actions needs to be done at what period of time, at what state in which it is. That's all what the reinforcement learning is all about. Next, we will try to see different types of approaches for doing a reinforcement learning problem.